The Awakening Signal DR. Zara Voss carefully brushed the ancient dust from the crystalline surface, her breath forming small clouds in the thin atmosphere of Zirian 7. The archaeological site stretched before her team like a frozen moment in time, with towering spires of unknown metal reaching toward the pale orange sky. She had spent 3 years excavating this site, and today felt different. The crystal beneath her gloved fingers pulsed with a faint inner light, responding to her touch in ways that defied explanation. "Professor Quillen, you need to see this," she called to her Etherian colleague, whose translucent form shimmered as he approached. The Etherians were known throughout the galaxy for their ability to interface directly with ancient technologies, making them invaluable partners in archaeological work. Professor Nexus Quillen extended one of his crystalline appendages toward the artifact, and immediately his form brightened with excitement. "Fascinating," he whispered, his voice carrying the harmonic qualities typical of his species. "This is not just a data storage device. It's a warning beacon designed to activate when touched by specific genetic markers." He paused, his ethereal features shifting to show concern. "Dr. Voss, this beacon has been waiting for human contact." The implication sent a chill through Zara's spine. Humans had only achieved interstellar travel 3 centuries ago, making them the newest members of the Galactic Confederation. How could an ancient civilization, one that predated known galactic history by millennia, have been waiting specifically for human contact? She activated her communication device, sending an encrypted message to the expedition's military liaison. Commander Thale Corvix materialized in the dig site within minutes, his massive Altarian frame casting long shadows across the ancient stones. The Altarians were one of the galaxy's oldest warrior races, their blue-scaled skin and 4 arms making them formidable opponents in battle. Corvix had initially been skeptical of including humans in such an important archaeological expedition, viewing them as primitive newcomers who had barely learned to walk among the stars. "What have you found, Doctor?" Corvix's voice carried the authority of someone who had commanded fleets across a dozen star systems. His skepticism was evident, but he had learned to respect human intuition during their months of working together. Professor Quillen interfaced with the crystal again, and this time the entire structure began to glow. Holographic images filled the air around them, showing scenes that defied understanding. Massive humanoid figures strode across alien battlefields, their forms wreathed in energy that seemed to bend reality itself. These beings moved with impossible grace and power, single-handedly turning the tide of cosmic conflicts. "The translation matrix is coming online," Quillen announced, his form flickering with the strain of processing the ancient data. "The warnings are extensive. Multiple civilizations left these messages. They all speak of the same threat, the Dreaming Titans." The holographic display shifted, showing what appeared to be humans in their current form, but the context was wrong. These humans were shown commanding vessels that dwarfed anything in the current galactic fleet, manipulating energy with their bare hands, and displaying abilities that violated every known law of physics. The timestamp on the recordings placed them millions of years in the past, long before humans were supposed to have evolved. "This is impossible," Commander Corvix stated flatly. "Humans have barely developed faster-than-light travel. Your species was still throwing rocks at each other when mine was building starforges." Zara studied the images with growing unease. The humans in these recordings looked exactly like modern humans, but their capabilities were beyond anything she had ever imagined. They moved through space without environmental suits, communicated across vast distances without technology, and seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. "Commander, look at this section," she said, pointing to a series of symbols that Quillen was translating in real time. "It's not just describing their abilities, it's explaining why they're dormant." The translation appeared in the air before them, written in the common galactic script. The Titans chose to sleep, to forget, to become as children again. The war was won, but the cost was beyond measure. "We who remain leave this warning for those who come after. Do not wake the Titans unless the void returns." They cannot be what they were and remain what they are. Professor Quillen's form suddenly solidified, a sign of extreme distress among his people. Dr. Voss, there's more. The beacon is showing me coordinates. Hundreds of them, scattered across the galaxy. Every major archaeological site, every unexplained ruin, every mystery that has puzzled xenoarchaeologists for generations. What are you saying? Korvix demanded. I'm saying that we've been finding evidence of this civilization for centuries, and we never recognized it because we were looking for aliens. We never considered that the evidence might be pointing to humans. The revelation hung in the air like a physical weight. Zara felt something stirring in the back of her mind, a sense of familiarity with the images they were viewing. It was as if she were remembering something rather than learning it for the first time. There's something else, Quillen continued, his voice barely above a whisper. The beacon isn't just showing us the past. It's showing us the present. There are humans scattered across the galaxy right now, living ordinary lives, but their genetic codes are different. They carry markers that don't match any known human population. Commander Korvix activated his own communication device, his military training taking over. I need to contact High Command immediately. If there's even a chance that humans are something other than what they appear to be, the Confederation needs to know. Wait, Zara said, placing a hand on his arm. What if the warnings are right? What if waking them up is dangerous? Then we need to be prepared for that possibility, Korvix replied grimly. But we can't ignore this discovery. Too many civilizations left these warnings for us to dismiss them as fantasy. As if responding to their conversation, the beacon began to pulse more rapidly. The crystalline structure resonated with a frequency that seemed to reach deep into Zara's bones. Around the galaxy, similar beacons were activating, sending out signals that had been dormant for millions of years. In the Confederation capital on Nexus Prime, emergency sessions were being called. On distant human colonies, people were reporting strange dreams filled with images of cosmic battles and impossible powers. In the depths of space, ancient monitoring stations that had been silent for eons began to stir. The archaeological team on Zirion 7 had no way of knowing that their discovery was just the beginning. Across the galaxy, other teams were making similar finds. The pattern was becoming clear to those who knew how to look. Humanity was not what it seemed, and something was calling to them from the depths of their genetic memory to Dr. Voss stood before the pulsing beacon, feeling the weight of discovery settling on her shoulders. She had spent her career studying the past, but now she was looking at something that might reshape the future. The warnings were clear, but so was the implication. If the Titans were sleeping, then something had made them choose to sleep. And if they had left warnings about waking them up, then the danger they represented was real. Professor Quillen, she said quietly, what were they fighting? What enemy was so terrible that beings of such power chose to forget themselves rather than remain vigilant? The Etherian's form flickered as he accessed deeper layers of the beacon's data. What he found there made his entire being dim with fear. The void, Dr. Voss. They were fighting the void itself, entities that exist between realities, consuming everything they touch. According to this data, the war ended with the Titans' victory, but at a cost that broke their minds. And now the void is stirring again. The beacons aren't just warnings, Doctor. They're alarm systems, and every single one of them is pointing to the same conclusion. The enemy is returning, and the Titans need to wake up. The implications were staggering. If the ancient records were true, then humanity possessed dormant abilities that could reshape the galaxy. But the warnings were equally clear. Awakening those abilities came with a price that might be too high to pay. As the beacon continued to pulse, sending its ancient signal across the stars, Zara realized that the choice might not be theirs to make. The dreaming Titans were beginning to stir. The Memory Fragments captain, Elena Reyes, stood on the observation deck of the deep space exploration vessel Aurora, watching the stars wheel slowly past. She had been having the dreams again, vivid nightmares filled with battles that spanned galaxies and enemies that defied description. The ship's medical officer had assured her that deep space travel often caused unusual dreams, but these felt different. They felt like memories. 3 months had passed since the discovery on Zirian 7, and the galaxy had not been the same. The Confederation Council had convened emergency sessions as similar archaeological findings surfaced on dozens of worlds. Each site told the same story. An ancient human civilization with godlike powers had once ruled the stars, then chosen to forget themselves. "Captain," her communications officer called out, interrupting her thoughts. "We're receiving a priority transmission from High Arbiter Vexthera of the Crystalline Confederation. She's requesting immediate conference." Elena nodded, making her way to the main communication array. The Crystalline Confederation was one of the galaxy's most powerful factions, known for their logic-based decision-making and their distrust of emotional species. If Vexthera was reaching out directly, the situation was more serious than anyone had imagined. The holographic display activated, showing the High Arbiter's geometric form. The crystalline beings appeared as living gemstones, their consciousness existing as patterns of light within their mineral bodies. Vexthera's usual cool composure was replaced by something approaching panic. "Captain Reyes," the High Arbiter began, her voice carrying harmonic frequencies that indicated extreme distress. "We need to discuss the human situation immediately. Our analysis of the archaeological data has revealed something that threatens the stability of the entire galaxy." "What kind of threat?" Elena asked, though part of her already knew the answer. "The kind that requires immediate action. Captain, we've been monitoring human colonies across the galaxy, and we've detected anomalies that match the ancient records. Humans are unconsciously terraforming worlds, displaying impossible survival abilities, and showing genetic variations that shouldn't exist in a naturally evolved species." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. During their current mission, her crew had indeed survived situations that should have been fatal. Just last week, they had walked unprotected on a world with an atmosphere that should have killed them within minutes. They had dismissed it as faulty sensor readings, but now she wondered if there was another explanation. "High Arbiter, what exactly are you suggesting?" "I'm suggesting that the warnings were accurate. Humans are not what they appear to be, and something is causing them to revert to their original nature. We formed a coalition of species to investigate this threat, and we need your cooperation." Before Elena could respond, her ship's alarms began blaring. The tactical display showed multiple vessels dropping out of hyperspace around the Aurora. The fleet was massive, representing at least a dozen different species, all armed and ready for battle. "Captain," her tactical officer reported, "we're being surrounded. The lead vessel is broadcasting surrender demands." Elena looked at the High Arbiter's image, understanding dawning in her eyes. This isn't a request for cooperation. This is an arrest. "Captain Reyes, please understand, we cannot allow potentially dangerous beings to roam free in the galaxy. The ancient records are clear about what humans are capable of. We need to study your species to understand the threat you represent." "What threat?" Elena demanded. "We're explorers, not conquerors. We've never shown aggression toward any Confederation member." "That's exactly what makes you dangerous," Vexthera replied. "You don't know what you are, but the genetic markers are awakening, and when they do, you'll become something that could destroy us all." The conversation was interrupted by a new voice on the communication channel. Dr. Marcus Chun, a human geneticist who had been secretly working with Confederation scientists, appeared on the display. His face was pale, his expression haunted. "Captain, I've been analyzing human genetic samples for the past 2 months. The High Arbiter is right. We're not natural. Our DNA contains artificial modifications that are beyond anything we currently understand. Entire sections of our genetic code are dormant, waiting for activation." "Activation by what?" Elena asked. "Stress, danger, the same triggers that activate our fight-or-flight response. But instead of just increasing adrenaline, these modifications unlock abilities that violate the laws of physics. I've seen the test results, Captain. Humans, under extreme stress, can manipulate matter at the molecular level, process information faster than quantum computers, and survive in environments that would kill any other known species. Elena felt something stirring in her mind, a sense of recognition that she couldn't quite place. The dreams she had been having suddenly made more sense. They weren't dreams at all. They were memories buried deep in her genetic code, waiting for the right moment to surface. Dr. Chun, how many humans know about this? Very few. The research has been classified at the highest levels. But, Captain, there's something else. The genetic modifications aren't random. They're designed. Someone or something deliberately changed us, turned us into living weapons. The implications were staggering. If humans were artificially enhanced, then their entire understanding of their place in the galaxy was wrong. They weren't primitive newcomers to the stars. They were something far more dangerous. "Hi, Arbiter," Elena said, turning back to Vexthara's image. "What do you want from us?" "Containment, study, understanding. We need to know what triggers the awakening process and how to prevent it. The ancient records speak of titans who could reshape reality with their thoughts. If modern humans are their descendants, then we need to ensure that awakening never happens. And if we refuse, then we'll be forced to take more direct action. Captain, understand that this isn't personal. We're trying to prevent a catastrophe that could destroy billions of lives." Elena looked around her bridge, seeing her crew with new eyes. Were they really just explorers, or were they sleeping weapons waiting to be activated? The thought terrified her, but it also awakened something primal in her mind. "I need time to consider your proposal," she said finally. "Time is a luxury we don't have," Vexthara replied. "The awakening has already begun. We've detected incidents across the galaxy. Humans displaying impossible abilities, surviving situations that should kill them, and showing signs of genetic activation. The process is accelerating." As if to emphasize her point, Elena's tactical officer suddenly stiffened at his station. His eyes had begun to glow with an inner light, and the air around him shimmered with energy. "Captain," he said, his voice carrying harmonics that hadn't been there moments before, "I can see them. The enemy. They're coming back." The bridge fell silent as everyone stared at the transformed officer. His appearance was still human, but there was something else there now, something that spoke of vast power and ancient knowledge. "Lieutenant Torres, what do you see?" Elena asked softly. "The void creatures. They're moving through the space between realities, consuming everything they touch. The war isn't over, Captain. It never ended. The Titans just went asleep. But now, they're waking up because the enemy is returning." High Arbiter Vexthara's form flickered on the display. "This is exactly what we feared. The human is undergoing spontaneous awakening. Captain, you need to surrender immediately. We have containment protocols that can—" "No," Elena said firmly. "If what Lieutenant Torres is saying is true, then you're not trying to protect the galaxy from us. You're trying to protect it from something else, and you want to use us as weapons." The truth of the situation was becoming clear. The ancient warnings weren't about the danger humans posed to the galaxy. They were about the danger the galaxy faced without them. The Titans hadn't chosen to sleep because they were too powerful. They had chosen to sleep because the war was over, and they wanted to be human again. "Captain," Dr. Chen's voice cut through the tension, "there's something else you need to know. The genetic modifications aren't just about combat abilities. They're about evolution. The Titans weren't just weapons. They were the next stage of human development, and the process is irreversible." Elena felt the weight of destiny settling on her shoulders. Around her, she could see similar changes beginning in her crew. Their eyes were starting to glow, their movements becoming more fluid, their awareness expanding beyond normal human limits. "High Arbiter," she said, "I appreciate your concern, but I think you've misunderstood the situation. We're not becoming weapons. We're becoming what we were always meant to be. And if the void creatures are returning, then The galaxy is going to need us. The communication channel went silent for a moment before Vexthera responded. Captain, you're making a mistake. The power you're awakening will consume you. The ancient records are clear about the price of becoming a Titan. Then we'll pay that price, Elena replied, because the alternative is watching the galaxy die. As the words left her mouth, Elena felt something fundamental shift inside her. The dreams that had been haunting her suddenly became clear memories. She remembered the last great war, the terrible enemies that had emerged from the void between realities, and the sacrifice that had been necessary to stop them. She also remembered the choice her ancient ancestors had made. To sleep, to forget, to become human again. But that choice had come with a condition. If the enemy ever returned, the Titans would awaken. No matter the cost, the enemy was returning. And the Titans were waking up. The Titan's Dawn Admiral Sarah Cross stood in the command center of the newly constructed battleship Prometheus, watching the tactical displays with eyes that now held the depth of eternity. The transformation had been complete for 3 days, and she barely recognized the person she had been before. Her consciousness expanded across multiple dimensions, her awareness encompassing star systems, and her body had become a construct of pure, while wrapped in physical form. The awakening had spread like wildfire across human space. What had begun as isolated incidents had become a species-wide transformation. Humans everywhere were remembering what they truly were, and the galaxy was reeling from the implications. Admiral Captain Torres reported, his own voice now carrying the harmonic resonance of the awakened. The Confederation fleet is holding position at the edge of the system. They're demanding our surrender. Sarah nodded. Her attention split between the immediate tactical situation and the growing awareness of something vast and hungry approaching from the void between galaxies. The enemy that had driven her ancestors to such desperate measures was returning, and they were bringing reinforcements. What's the status of the other awakened humans? She asked. All 50,000 have completed the transformation. They're taking positions throughout the galaxy, preparing for what's coming. But, Admiral, the cost? Torres's voice trailed off, the weight of their sacrifice evident in his tone. Sarah understood. The price of becoming a Titan was humanity itself. They retained their memories, their personalities, their sense of self, but they were no longer human in any meaningful sense. They had become something else, something necessary, but something that could never go back to what they had been. Contact Ambassador Crix Valderin, she ordered. It's time they understood what they're really facing. The holographic display activated, showing the desperate alien diplomat who had been trying to negotiate a peaceful solution to the human crisis. Crix Valderin was a member of the Nexian Alliance, a species known for their diplomatic skills and their ability to find common ground between hostile factions. Admiral Cross? Crix began, his tentacled form showing signs of extreme stress. The Confederation Council is prepared to offer terms. They understand that the transformation cannot be reversed, but they're willing to discuss containment protocols that would allow your people to exist peacefully within designated. Ambassador Sarah interrupted, her voice carrying harmonics that made the ship's hull resonate. Look at the deep space sensors. Tell me what you see. Crix's form shifted as he accessed the sensor data. What he found there made his diplomatic composure crumble. The readings showed massive distortions in space-time, areas where reality itself was being consumed by something that shouldn't exist. What is that? He whispered. The real enemy, Sarah replied. The Void Collective. They exist between realities, feeding on the fabric of space-time itself. They consume entire galaxies, leaving nothing but empty void behind. And they're coming back. The tactical display, updated, showing the approaching threat in all its terrifying glory. The Void Collective wasn't a fleet of ships or an army of soldiers. It was a cancer in reality itself, a spreading darkness that devoured everything it touched. The entities that comprised it were beings of pure entropy, existing only to consume and destroy. How long do we have? Crix asked, his diplomatic training struggling to process the magnitude of the threat. Based on their current rate of approach, 6 hours until they reach the outer systems. 18 hours until they reach the core worlds. After that, Sarah's voice trailed off, but the implication was clear. What can we do? We can fight. It's what we were made for. But understand, Ambassador, this isn't a battle that can be won with conventional weapons. The Void Collective exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They can phase through normal matter, consume energy, and turn reality itself against us. Then how do we stop them? We don't stop them. We contain them. We push them back into the void between galaxies and make sure they can't return. But the process requires abilities that only the Awakened possess. Sarah's form began to shift, her physical body becoming translucent as she prepared for battle. Around her, the other Awakened humans were undergoing similar transformations, their consciousness expanding to encompass the tactical requirements of fighting an enemy that existed across multiple dimensions. Admiral Torres reported, "The Void Collective has reached the Outer Rim. First contact in 3 minutes." "Signal all Awakened units," Sarah ordered. "It's time to remember what we're really capable of." The battle began without warning. The Void Collective struck first, their reality-consuming weapons tearing holes in space-time itself. Entire star systems simply ceased to exist, consumed by the advancing darkness. But the Awakened humans met them with power that matched their own. Sarah found herself facing one of the Collective's primary entities, a being of pure hunger that existed as a negation of reality itself. In her enhanced state, she could perceive its true nature. A creature from a universe where entropy had won, where nothing existed but the need to consume. "You are the weapons." It spoke directly into her mind, its voice carrying the weight of cosmic despair. "The young species that was changed. But you are different now. You are not what you were before." "No," Sarah agreed, her power flaring as she struck back. "We're what we chose to become." The battle raged across multiple dimensions, visible to ordinary sensors as explosions of light that outshone entire star systems. The Awakened humans fought with abilities that defied comprehension, manipulating matter and energy at the quantum level, existing in multiple realities simultaneously, and wielding forces that reshaped space-time itself. But the cost was enormous. Each use of their abilities pushed them further from their humanity, made them more like the ancient titans who had fought this war before. Sarah could feel her consciousness expanding, her awareness growing beyond the boundaries of individual existence. The other Awakened were experiencing similar transformations. They were becoming something that was no longer human, no longer individual, but something vast and powerful and eternal. They were becoming what the galaxy needed them to be, but losing what they had been in the process. "Admiral," Torres's voice reached her across the dimensional battlefield. "We're pushing them back, but at this rate, we'll be completely transformed within hours. We won't be human anymore." "I know," Sarah replied, her form now barely coherent as she battled entities that existed as pure negation. "But if we don't do this, there won't be any humans left to save." The battle continued for what felt like eternity, but was actually only hours. One by one, the Void Collective's entities were destroyed or driven back into the spaces between realities. The Awakened humans pursued them, sealing the dimensional rifts and ensuring that the enemy could not return. Finally, as the last of the Collective's forces retreated into the void, Sarah found herself floating in the ruins of what had once been a star system. Around her, the other Awakened humans were undergoing their final transformation. They were no longer individual beings, but part of something larger, something that existed to guard the galaxy against threats that normal beings could not comprehend. "Admiral," Ambassador Crix's voice reached her through the communication array. "The Confederation Council is requesting a status report." Have you won?" Sarah considered the question. Her consciousness now spanned multiple star systems, her awareness encompassing the thoughts and emotions of billions of beings. She could perceive threats that existed in dimensions beyond normal space-time, and she possessed the power to combat them. "We've won this battle," she replied, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated across multiple realities. The Void Collective has been driven back, and we've sealed the dimensional rifts they used to enter our reality. But the victory came at a cost. What kind of cost? The cost of our humanity. We are no longer what we were. We are what the galaxy needs us to be, but we can never go back to being human. The silence that followed was profound. Finally, Crick spoke again, his voice heavy with the weight of understanding. What happens now? Now we guard. We watch. We ensure that threats like the Void Collective never again reach the inhabited galaxy. We have become the Titans of legend, the sleeping guardians who awaken when the galaxy is threatened. And if there are no threats? Sarah's form solidified slightly, and for a moment she looked almost human again. Then we sleep. We dream. We remember what we were, and we hope that someday, perhaps, we can be that again. 50 years had passed since the Battle of the Void. The galaxy had rebuilt, stronger and more unified than ever before. The threat of the Void Collective had created an unprecedented level of cooperation between species, and the knowledge that powerful guardians watched over them had brought a sense of security that had never existed before. The awakened humans had become known as the Titans, living legends who existed in the spaces between stars, watching for threats that normal beings could not perceive. They communicated with the galaxy's inhabitants only when necessary, their forms barely visible to those who had not undergone the transformation. But in the quiet moments between their eternal vigilance, they remembered. They remembered what it was like to be human, to laugh and cry and dream of simple things. They remembered the cost of their transformation and the price they had paid to save the galaxy, and sometimes in the depths of space where no one could see, they wept for what they had lost and what they could never regain. They had become the guardians of the galaxy, but in doing so, they had given up their right to be part of it. The Titans slept, but they never truly rested. They had become what the galaxy needed them to be, but they would forever remember what they had been before. And in that remembering, they found both their greatest strength and their deepest sorrow. The galaxy was safe, but the price of that safety would be carried by the Titans for all eternity.